You're listening to this podcast, so I know you've got a curious mind. Here's a helpful fact that you may not know yet. Drivers who switch and save with Progressive save over $900 on average. They make it super simple. Pop over to Progressive.com, answer some questions, and you'll get a quick quote with coverage options tailored to your choices. Plus, you'll see which discounts you may qualify for, like the online quote discount or savings for paying in full. In fact, 99% of Progressive Auto customers earn at least one discount. See if you could save when you switch to Progressive. You'll feel good about making a savvy choice. Visit Progressive.com and see if you can enjoy a little extra cash back. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. National average 12-month savings of $946 by new customers surveyed who saved with Progressive between June 2024 and May 2025. Potential savings will vary.
Howard, I'm so glad I saved your number. My husband fell at a construction site and is in critical condition. I knew it wasn't safe.
I'm very sorry to hear that. I just want to let you know I'm here to help. Yeah, tell me more about it. Work injuries not only affect the victim, but also everyone around them. Inc. Law is Chicago-based and here to advocate on your behalf. With over 100 attorneys and staff, if you or someone you know has questions about a work injury, call 312-6-million. Injury law made personal. That's Inc. Law.
From your favorite source for Chicago White Sox talk, delivering news, interviews, analysis, and more. This is the Sox Machine Podcast with your hosts, Jim Margulis, James Fegan, and Josh Nelson.
Thanks, Rob, and welcome to a new episode of the Sox Machine Podcast. I'm your host, Josh Nelson, and it's Wednesday night, May 6th, 2026, as we record this new episode. Well, after the White Sox won 2 out of 3 in San Diego, I was hopeful that the White Sox could figure out how to win 2 more at Anaheim. And after a very convincing win on Monday night, it sure looked like the White Sox were going to figure it out and maybe get back to 500. But after a tough loss on Tuesday night with a game-tying run 90 feet away, the White Sox couldn't convert on a double play opportunity in the second inning. Chase Mydroth lost an infield pop-up in the sun. Things got out of hand as the Angels scored 5 runs in that second inning, all with 2 outs, and they end up winning the series against the White Sox. So the White Sox have dropped their last 2 games. They're 17-20 as they head home for their longest homestand of the 2026 season. 9 games at Wright Field against the Seattle Mariners, the Kansas City Royals, and the Chicago Cubs. Not an easy stretch. In this episode, we'll recap what happened in Anaheim, catch up on White Sox roster news, and preview the upcoming series in Seattle. Joining me is Sox Machine's beat reporter, it's James Fegan. You've also seen him on Fox 32 in Foul Territory as of late. James, everyone is interested in the White Sox after they won Monday's game and they proceeded to drop the last 2 games. Brought up the last episode of the podcast. I am a little disappointed they didn't win this series, but you did warn everybody things can get weird in Anaheim. It is a 3-3 West Coast road trip. White Sox fans should still take some solace, right? That it's not a losing road trip.
In terms of the team that we thought this was 3 days ago, and for most of the season, yeah, they're holding their own. They're moving towards 500. They are middle of the pack in terms of like WAR on both sides of the ball. If we didn't respond to every good stretch, discourse wise, industry wise, with how does this reset their expectations? What new questions do we need to ask now? How do we take this? How do we extrapolate this like a degree beyond what it currently is to make it something else, or to the point where we're asking questions like, will they spend to contend in 2027 when we don't really know what we're looking at here for? Like, yeah, they're still fine. They're still generally that team. Part of like, we talk about understanding that Murakami is like the 3 true outcomes like monster, and that comes with like a day where he's 0 for 4 of 4 Ks in a critical, including someone in a critical spot. So yeah, I don't think this is like all of a sudden they turn into an awful team. I think more like they're a team that's young and showing strides, and they're going to have ups and downs, and this is part of it. So it's not yes, there's still things to take heart on. There's still like the things you should generally have been encouraged with as far as like their long-term view, based on like the way they've started the season. Like Colson Montgomery's OPS still starts as an 8. Chase Mydroff are still getting on base a decent amount. He got on base 3 times a day in a game that he probably otherwise wants to forget. Sam Antonacci still looks pretty good numerically. Even after 0 for 4 with 4Ks, like Murakami is still a revelation. So yeah, they can still be heartened, but maybe it's a bit more of like a reminder that this is probably a team that we expected to hopefully be set the kind of, I think our predictions were all in the 70s wind-wise, and not necessarily buying into 2 weeks as like this major recalibration to what they're going to do, especially when they haven't gotten to 500 yet. So I don't want to victory lap over a defeat, or even, I just feel like it's more like this is in kind with what we'll see this year of this waxing and waning. But around the corner, maybe they'll play good again and we'll get overly excited again.
It does feel good, though, to be a little bit sore after a loss, especially Tuesday night when Sam Antonacci got himself over to third base with 1 out, running into an infielder to cause interference. A very Sam Antonacci type of play. He didn't need to. He would have still gone to third base on the missed field on his stolen base attempt, but it's still a heads-up play. And here's Colson Montgomery. And the way that Colson's been hitting, the guy that you want up at the plate, he had a walk-off hit against the Angels last week. I'm thinking to myself, James, they're going to tie it. The White Sox are to figure it out. They're down 4-2 late. Mydroth hits a big home run. Montgomery's got this. This game's going to extra innings, and then Colson missed. Kelenic walked. Bases are loaded. And Edgar Caro, unfortunately, grounds out. To be sore after a loss, though, it feels kind of good in a weird way, James, because it's one of those games that you walk away as a White Sox fan. It's like, oh, it's a missed opportunity for all of us to get excited and to say this team is in first place, even though they're below 500. And it feels good after 3 seasons where they've lost way more than 300 games.
So you're Nicole Kidman in like that AMC preview where she's like wearing like a $700,000 outfit in an AMC theater for some reason, saying heartbreak feels good in a place like that. That's the mood you're in right now. That being able to feel things again is what is driving you. Sure, yeah, that's why people want to generally. I think that's generally the value of having a team that's not just like hardcore rebuilding and nothing matters until like the point where we're winning the World Series. Like entertaining your audience on a regular basis, making the text my mom sends me mid-game more viscerally upset than kind of long-term dejected. Yeah, that's a good sign for progress for the team. I would back that assertion a lot. I think if anything, still like the White Sox fans are probably in this good pocket where, especially this season, it's really building my theory that like 2019 was the best year of the rebuild, because like that was the year where like any like they could just focus on these good young players who are looking good. And anytime they won, I was like, wow, this is how we're going to do it in the future. And anytime they lost, it's like, we're not supposed to yet anyway. And I think the 2026 White Sox are very much, if not more so, in terms of like losing games like they're not supposed to yet. Like you don't really have the whole core up. Like Brandon Montgomery's not there. Kyle Teal's not there because of injury. Most of like the pitching that you were really excited about being like the core of the team. Yeah, things may change. Maybe Davis Martin's a 15-year White Sox. Who knows? But the bone, like not even like necessarily all the bones of what you hoped is a team that powers you is in place. So hopefully it can be this kind of year where losses to an objectively horrible organization with the Angels doesn't register as this existential crisis, even if you kind of feel like both they had so many chances to win that game on Tuesday, and Wednesday you have your top pitching prospect versus somebody the Angels are going to have to accept at some point as a reliever, and you think you should win that game, and instead that guy goes 6 innings of a 1-run ball, and you feel like, well, maybe he was shoving all my words in the game preview back in my face. or he's throwing 40% changeups. That normal. Anyway, I can't. Going to be a good reliever, but they'll have to figure that out at some point on their own. But yeah, I think this would be a year where you should feel like immune from consequences of the biggest heartbreak from this team, unless of course they play too well and they're actually in the division race and you actually have stakes that you feel like are let down from some critical series in late September in Cleveland or Kansas. I don't even look at the schedule. That theoretically you can see them winning the division until that goes south. Who knows?
Well, I think speaking of the division race, this is why everyone has suddenly gotten interested in the White Sox, right? Because looking at the American League Central standings heading to this weekend, Detroit and Cleveland are tied for first place. That's not a surprise, but they're both 18 and 19. No team in the American League Central has a winning record. Kansas City is now in third place, a half game back. They have a 5-game winning streak. They're red hot right now. They're 17 and 19. The White Sox are in fourth place at 17 and 20. And the Minnesota Twins have won their last 2 games. They're currently in last place at 16 and 20. All 5 teams are within 2 games of each other right now heading into this weekend. And after this weekend, we will be 25% done. The first quarter of the 2026 season will be over. And I think it's because if the White Sox were still 17 and 20, James, but if Detroit was actually playing up to the level that they should be talent-wise, and they were like 25 and 12, then we're dreaming about the White Sox maybe getting to 500, but we're not dreaming about the White Sox being in the playoffs. After Monday night, if the season were to be done, they would have been in the wild card. The White Sox, for a brief moment, were the 6th seed this season. Just how crazy the American League is, and that's why you get asked questions on Foul Territory by former White Sox catcher A.J. Brzezinski. We could come up with all the reasons why the White Sox won't make the playoffs, but at the same time, why not the White Sox if the American League is going to continue to stumble?
Well, one, I'm tempted to say why not, which is mostly like if we were grading them like if they were the Tigers, we'd be like, man, they're going to have to shore up the rotation at the deadline because well, one, they have to shore up the bullpen because at this point, not to spoil a later talking point on the agenda, they're cycling through their last relief option, kind of anything that comes along. They're like, ever seen the movie Flow that has the lemur that's like just picking up like shiny trash? They're doing that, like kind of roster management a little bit, the last bullpen spot. That little sack he has, that supporting man roster. But also like the outfield depth where they're signing Randall Gochick because like they don't have any right-handed outfielders because Hayes and Pereira are injured, and you look at them right now, like you probably don't really love how they match up with left-handed starters at this point. And if you're preparing for the White Sox in a playoff series or a critical series, you're like, let's call up a lefty from AAA and let's just bring out as many lefties as we can because like we wanted to defang Murakami, Montgomery, Antonacci, Benintendi, probably in that order of priority at the Teal if he's up. At this point, they kind of have these holes that you would scrutinize a bit more if you were viewing them with like, hey, we gotta tighten this up. We're trying to win a division versus like, oh, why not us type of thing. The ceiling, I think, for this team, like the best we thought they could play or like reasonable, like this would be like an A+ type of grade is if they played 500 ball. So we think that best case scenario, unless they actually load up at the deadline, which would present its own limitations in terms of like how much salary they had, yada yada yada. We think their ceiling is probably at like what everybody in the division's playing a little bit below right now, right? And like Scoob will go down, makes it think like, well, maybe Detroit doesn't have this extra gear that their run differential otherwise suggested that they did have at some point. But it's just kind of drilling home to me like this is like a season without consequences in terms of expectations, because 2021 they win that division, everyone's like, man, the other teams weren't even trying. There was no one else who was above 500. Whereas like if they won that division for this reason now, it's just like, hey, why not us? Like we earned it. We scrapped our way here. This one feels better than any season we've had in 10 years. It's like they're in this perfect thing where like nothing is bad. That's really bad unless like you have injuries. Those are kind of outside the context of the year. But it's hard for them to, especially with like establishing that their floor is clearly higher than it's been the last 3 years. It's really hard for it to go bad vibes wise from here. So that's nice. So we should probably enjoy it. And I just think part of like enjoying is like be present. Like you're just watching a young team improve and not be like, this changes every team every time like they win a series against a good team. Like there'll be moments like that when you should feel proud of them and happy and excited about what it portends, what they're capable of being more. But there's also going to be, they lose a series to a bad team that maybe they shouldn't have lost. I think they're just kind of in that mode right now. We should kind of focus a bit more on the positives and not necessarily like take the positives and translate it to expectations have to change. Like, I think it sucks for me as an analyst to be like really positive and excited about Davis Martin for like the last 4 years. And now I have to be the person poo-pooing when it's like, so will he be the starter in the All-Star game? I'm like, I don't know, probably not. Only one guy gets to do that in the whole league. The odds are a little bit against him. And be like, man, you're pumping the brakes on Davis Martin. Like people saying he looks the part of an ace. Like, yeah, sometimes. Like, we'll see. Like, let's not like voice this like he's the best starter in Chicago. Like, I like it's. Why do we have to turn like every like positive development into like this new debate about like re-ranking everything? And I don't know.
Oh, did you not hear the fiery debate on ESPN 1000?
I didn't. I'm just kind of like seeing things on clips and being like, I'm not even trying to judge like how they handle it. It's just like, oh, you got content to fill, but you know, we don't necessarily need to have that debate just yet. He's had like 7 starts this season. Let's kind of see where it goes. I'm definitely intrigued. We don't need to foist those expectations on him yet. We're like, where if he slides back to like a 3 ERA over the course of the season and has the best year of his career, it's like, man, he really fell apart down. It's like, no, he's fine. This is a starter. They go through ups and downs. He had a good stretch. Like, he's having a good season. Let's hope it keeps going. Like, it's a little bit like it's really good that they got to Jose Soriano twice. And he started really great. Jose Soriano also started really great last year, and I thought he was having a breakout, and then he finished with like a season in the 4s ERA, and he's starting out the same now, and it doesn't seem like we remember what he did last year. It's like they just beat the best pitcher in baseball. It's like, kinda, but like maybe we don't extrapolate that to they're going to crush every single pitcher because they just got the best one. So like,
right.
I don't know, things happen in the baseball season. I don't want to be grouchy about it. I try to be like, enjoy every little bit, but we don't need to like extrapolate. Like, it is early May. We don't need to extrapolate everything to this huge, you know, resetting of the debate every time like they play a good series.
If you didn't see the debate, podcast listeners, you can go on social media on Twitter, ESPN 1000 Chicago. Sylvie was arguing that the White Sox should already be thinking about trading Davis Martin, and Chuck Garfien was defending his stance that the White Sox shouldn't. So that's a good example. It is early May, and we are diving deep into topics that I wasn't expecting to be talking about this season. The trade deadline is still not for almost 3 months away in early August.
We've all been there. You're away for the weekend, the big game is on, and you realize you're restricted from watching. Or maybe you're trying to check the latest lines on your betting app, but your local network is blocking the site. These are the ultimate unforced errors. You can prevent this from happening to you with IPVanish. IPVanish is the powerhouse VPN designed to keep you in the game no matter where you are. IPVanish helps you stay connected to your favorite team and streaming services while you travel. But it's not just about watching the game. For the bettors out there, IPVanish provides an extra layer of security and privacy that helps you access your account safely on public Wi-Fi. Plus, IPVanish is lightning fast, so you won't have to worry about lag during those crucial live betting moments. Right now, get a massive discount at IPVanish.com. That's IPVanish.com to get started today. Secure your play and go to IPVanish.com.
Big thanks to our sponsor, BetterHelp, for partnering with us for this important conversation about mental health.
This is Steve Smith here, former NFL wide receiver and host of the 89 show on YouTube. So having a counselor and working with BetterHelp, that gives you an opportunity to really start to unpack. But people don't understand, when you unpack things, you also open up a box that you're not always sure what's inside. So I think that's why seeing a professional is extremely important. If you need someone to open up to, visit BetterHelp. That's betterhelp.com/89 to get started.
But let's talk about two of the pitchers. We'll talk about Davis Martin in a moment, but I did want to ask you about Noah Schultz. That was a really bad luck second inning, James. I mean, if the White Sox turn that double play, they get through the second inning and they're still up 1-0. Instead, they miss out on it. 3-run homer, and then it was double, triple. Chase Mydroth loses the ball in the sun. And then eventually the bases get loaded later in his start. Will Venable pulls Schultz, brings in Beto, Osvaldo Beto. Beto hits the next two batters, so that's 2 more runs on Noah Schultz's line. So he ends up finishing at 79 pitches, 3 2/3 innings pitched against the Angels, allowed 7 hits, 7 earned runs, 4 walks, and 3 strikeouts. A lot of those runs he gave up could have easily been avoided. But in his last 2 starts, it is more walks than strikeouts. It's 7 walks to just 5 strikeouts. Any concerns there about that ratio?
Yeah, I don't think a successful Noah Schultz had like walks 5 per 9. Like, and usually when you say like, hey, this guy can't afford to walk people, you're talking about someone with like lighter stuff. And I don't mean it that way, but he isn't like, he's supposed to be heavy stuff in terms of like, you know, he gets a lot of like weak contact or gets a lot of people on the ground. It's not like huge strikeout rates, or it's not like necessarily bat missing fastballs, which is another related point that all right, keep going. Don't go on the tangent. Anyway, I think his best performance in the minors has been when he's been this, you know, certainly sub 10% walk rate guy, but like sub 8% walk, someone who's just pounding the zone relentlessly and doesn't give himself extra base runners. And that makes that ground ball approach like more palatable. I don't think he can be a guy who's like in the upper stratosphere and walks and get away with it. It's not a Dylan Cease. It's not going to be like insane strikeout rate where like the walks don't matter because there's no hits whatsoever. So that part, that won't hunt. It didn't seem like his a couple starts where he's been able to manage it a bit better. He seemed like he was able to use the cutter to get back in the zone. That wasn't really as effective on Wednesday. Four-seamer wasn't getting a high strike percentage, but like also the four-seamer had been the most effective pitch early on. But for him, it's really kind of a change of pace thing because everything else is supposed to be, you know, sinking or moving east-west, and your eye level is not supposed to be there, and then he can run one up on you, and it doesn't have great shape, but it has good velocity, and you're not seeing it. It's the lower approach angle. If that's his primary pitch, and it seems like teams are geared up on it, the way the Angels were today, where you saw the Darnaud home run off of it, and the Neto triple. Angels' last names are not my focus here. In that situation, like it's not a pitch that's going to survive or thrive when the other opposition is geared up on it and he has to use it. So that's also like I think we know that. I don't know if that's necessarily a red flag, but it's just like a kind of reminder of like the necessity of getting other things working, or, you know, having a sinker play for ground balls the way he needs to, or having a sweeper. Like it wasn't bad. It wasn't like he didn't land some today or have some really good ones or even get some good whiffs on it. Just that's a pitch that maybe long run you want to be more like this is the signature of what Noah Schultz, you know, misses bats with or gets guys out with than the four-seamer, like as much as it was early on. Because if teams key on it, you will see that vulnerability. That said, like I don't think, oh man, he stinks, or he should get optioned or anything like that, or not like just a ton of confidence in him going forward, even in the season, like immediately. That's just like the walks have been something that have been kind of creeping up more often than not so far. That's like just really not his game as far as like how he's going to thrive, but it's fairly early on yet. It was a little unlucky. It was a little bit like him, like, yeah, Beto hitting the first 2 guys that Bush runs in is, you know, a comical series of events. But if you load the bases near the end of your pitch count, and you're already down 5-1, they're not bringing in Grant Taylor to clean up your mess. Like that's kind of a fact of life. You leave the bases loaded in the fourth inning, stuff is going to happen. There were some hard hits, and like obviously the Mydroth error at the end, like add another to tally, but kind of probably 50-50, at least a toss-up that they even turn that double play if it's clean. Like it was a slow rolling ball. Colson was rushing for a reason there, so it's not like that's an obvious gimme, and if not for that, like he would have cruised. I think things were a little shaky beyond that, and they're hitting him hard in other opportunities beyond that. So it's not a total like, oh, wipe the slate, these people did you wrong, don't worry about it, Noah. And it's not a panic time, your stuff doesn't work up here type of start either. It's rookie starter, sixth start, I think. Young team, things happen, roll with the punches type of outing, I think.
For good, Davis Martin. And wow, 7 scoreless innings, only allowed 5 hits, didn't walk a batter, struck out 10 on 85 pitches. Like, if the White Sox really wanted to push Davis, and I don't think he would have been able to pitch a complete game shutout if they don't want to push him to 110, 120 pitches on the season. But Davis looked really good, James. And at this stage of the season, I'm running out of things on just like how to describe on this breakout season for him. This is the 3rd time this season already Davis Martin has pitched at least 7 innings, and right now he does rank 3rd, according to FanGraphs, in pitcher WAR for all of Major League Baseball at 1.6 WAR on the season. I'm not saying you should now expect Davis Martin to be a strikeout artist. He's going to now consistently throw or pitch 10 strikeouts a game. But this is something I was not expecting from Davis, and it really feels like this slider that he has, it's just been a devastating pitch, especially against right-handed batters, James. Is that now Davis's go-to strikeout pitch when he is ahead of batters?
It's interesting you say that, if it's go-to, because he threw it not that much in that game. He threw it like 14 times. It was just devastating impact. I'm glad I went through the whole speech about taking things in stride and like not blowing things out of proportion, because I do not know how to put this Davis Martin start in proportion. He looked awesome. Like the other starts were like, this looks like a good Davis Martin start. He's getting some weak contact. He's getting outs when he needs to. He's mixing his pitches. This one was just blowing people's doors off from like the first pitch. And it was a team he had just faced in his last start. And like the Angels are more strikeout prone, but they're like a league average offense on the year to start. And they certainly have like home run pop. And it was just not competitive. So it was kind of freaky. I think if anything, I want to say like he tweaked his slider May last year. It got like harder. It started becoming more high 80s. It was really struggling before that in that season. And it's been pretty good since then. What I noticed is like he has to use it less, and you're seeing a lot more like this guy who has 6 pitches and like he can really set up his slider. It's carrying less weight, and so it can have more impact when he does use it. Like he can, run that sinker in on righties now that he's developed, and show different fastball shapes, or flipping a curveball, and he doesn't need the slider to be the thing that gets him ahead in the count by grabbing something off the outside edge and then try to get additional chase off that. The slider can be like something you haven't seen until he's already 2 strikes on you, and then it's you think you have to cover all these different shapes in the zone, and you see one more and you wind up going off the edge for it. So if anything, I feel like it's the rest of his game rounding into shape and trying to work on a story about Davis that I've been doing for a little bit now. Like there's never like been this like aha moment or this one pitch to fix everything. Even like the kick change, I think, as enthusiastic as he was about it when he first got it, like I still think it's just kind of another piece of the armor, and everyone just says like he's just always getting better. He's just always gradually improving. He's just always trying to level up little parts of his game. So it feels less like, oh man, the slider just turned awesome. It did kind of feel like that when he did it the first really good game he had it with Cincinnati last year. But this current version, Davis, seems like he can show you a different thing every night. Like there was some random start where he was just like throwing 3-2 curveballs at everybody, and like his curveball is like his 5th use pitch. And I remember asking him about it, and he just kind of like was coy. It's like, I'm showing different wrinkles. And like I feel like that's been him all season, is just kind of flipping approaches on people. And what could be a better testimony of it than facing a team twice, like back-to-back starts, and being more dominant the second time in their home park than he was the first. Like that seems like a Davis Martin thing to do now.
I wonder if you asked like opposing hitters about Davis Martin, I wonder what they would say now for those that have faced him, right? Because it wouldn't make sense to write this story this upcoming weekend because we'll preview the Seattle Mariners series and Davis Martin is a probable starter on Sunday. But I'm wondering if this season continues for Davis Martin and we're in July and he's still a top 5 starter in the American League. And it's like, yeah, the White Sox are going to have multiple All-Stars this season, something that we were not expecting because Munetaka Murakami is probably going to make the All-Star team. Davis Martin right now looks like he deserves to be on the All-Star team. Colson Montgomery looks like he's got a good case of making the All-Star team. I'm just curious, like when you have a guy, it's not, I guess it's a kitchen sink method, James, but when you are facing a pitcher who realistically could throw 5-6 different pitches at you, even for righties, like you try to eliminate some of those pitches because maybe some of them are just for lefties. But if you have to cover 4 pitches, I don't think we've never talked about Davis Martin being this type of guy. We always thought that he was like a 5 and fly type of pitcher. Like if Davis Martin gives you 5 innings, you should be happy. But now like the conversation has changed with him where it's like, I didn't know he had this in him. Like getting through 7 innings is amazing. It's very Mark Burley-esque. Not many strikeouts, lots of weak contact, but he's getting outs. Now he's got this in the bag. Now I don't know. I don't know what the ceiling is right now for Davis Martin in his breakout season.
I would say he never thought of himself as a 5 and dive guy, and he always viewed it as part of like being less of like strikeout oriented in his approach and seeking quick contact is that he wanted to be this guy who gives you bulk innings. I think the whole elite sub 2 ERA thing is more secondary to his goal of like he wants to be the innings eater for his staff and somebody who helps all of his teammates out in that way. I think that's how he views like the essential nature of his role of giving you 6 or more every single night, and like his job is not done for that. So I think building on his arsenal, being this guy who can show you a lot of different looks, has tools to face the lineup a third time, has ways to get outs efficiently so that he can deepen the games. I think that's something he always viewed as like what he was building towards. Whether it's going to be at this high, incredible success level, sure, he'd love that. But I think if you probably ask Davis, like the way he really like wants to evaluate himself at the end of the year, or the number that might mean most to him is probably innings pitch.
I get that. I do. It's just, I think for us on the outside, like Davis believing in himself, fantastic. But I think for everybody else after the injury that he went through, in at least his first 4 seasons with the White Sox, Davis is more of a number 4, number 5 starter. He's definitely not pitching like that now. And do you remember, podcast listeners, before the season, I was going to try to find reasons to incorporate strikeout minus walk rate because that seems to be a number for other analysts that determine whether a pitcher's got good stuff or not. But Davis Martin has a 25% strikeout rate. That's pretty good. It's not elite. Elite's usually better than 30%. A 4.7% walk rate, James. That is fantastic. So, yeah, right now, Davis Martin's strikeout minus walk rate is in the 20%. So it's all clicking for him.
I guess, like, I'm thinking of an anecdote, like, outside of statistics to describe him, which was, like, it won't sound super impressive because it was talking about the White Sox rotation at the start of 2025. And it was saying, like, maybe at the time it was more ambiguous. They felt like Davis was like a White Sox person saying like they felt Davis was like their most versatile starter. And what they said, like Burke had gotten the opening day nod because they felt he had the best stuff. Like obviously they're excited about Shane Smith. Like Jonathan Cannon was probably coming off like the better full season that year, but they worried about him against lefties. Davis was the guy they felt like any type of game he can kind of like adapt to it. Like Burke, if you like at that stage, certainly Burke, he's been better this season in that respect a lot, but Burke back then, like he needs to miss a lot of bats. He needs big strikeout numbers. That's how you know he's being successful. Davis was somebody who like crazy offense environment needs to be things on the ground or like really hard day to score because it's cold and the wind's blowing in. Other team is like swinging away, like A swings all the time, and it's more of like go for strikeouts. That he had weapons, he had ways, he like wasn't flummoxed or he wasn't panicked in any of these situations. And so they always kind of felt, or they have for a bit now, like this is the guy who kind of is versatile, has the tools to be more consistent time in, time out, because like different matchups, different game situations, he has more tools to deal with them, and deals with them without panicking, without being able to respond to it with his game plan. Because his game plan is very like go with the flow. It's like they don't. I remember talking to Bo about it with their new game plan. It's like Davis doesn't want things too set. He wants to be able to read what's going on. He wants to read his keys out there. So they have like they're a bit more like hands off in terms of like scripting what he's going to do. So I feel like that's what's really on display. Obviously, he's getting the best results possible with it, but he's the guy who's not supposed to be like, oh, this is just a bad matchup and he's got no way out of it. Sort of starting pitcher.
That is wild. You know who would not like that is the Miami Marlins, who've been micromanaging pitching. They would have a headache with Davis Martin with going with the flow. But hey, don't stop now, Davis. Don't do anything. Zach Bove and the White Sox pitching staff and the catchers, let Davis do what he wants to do because he looks really strong right now. For other White Sox news, one transaction. The Chicago White Sox have traded for Trevor Richards. And Trevor Richards is a reliever with the Philadelphia Phillies for one of Jerry Reinsdorf's favorite players, is the joke, cash considerations. So the White Sox are sending cash to Philadelphia for Trevor Richards. And Richards, from 2021 to 2024, was pretty dependable coming out of the bullpen. He pitched at least 64 innings. But the last 2 seasons, Richards has only made 7 appearances because of injury. And in those 7 appearances, just spanning 10 innings, he's appeared in 2 games this season for a little more than 4 innings. And as James alluded to earlier in the show, the White Sox are continuing this revolving door as far as adding pitchers to the bullpen. This is another one, and the White Sox did activate both Jonathan Cannon and Chris Murphy and promptly opted both of those back to Charlotte. I think the White Sox have to make one more roster move, James, to add Trevor Richards to the roster. As far as to help out of the bullpen, maybe we've seen the last of Beto for a bit. As Valdo Beto had that struggles with the bases loaded, he did ended up pitching 2 scoreless innings after that. But he's been mostly the guy coming in when the White Sox are behind by a lot to just eat up innings. But when it comes to Trevor Richards, James, like how does he fit within the White Sox pitching hierarchy?
Well, he's got a lot of like gray, and from talking to my friend who covers the Phillies, Matt Gelb, he wears reading glasses a lot in the clubhouse. So I think this is like a team that kind of struggles. It probably gets carded at a lot of restaurants. I don't know how things go with them when they're like trying to buy beer at the liquor store. So I think he kind of fills a need right there off the bat in terms of someone who clearly looks like an adult who's at their place of business. But big strikeout rate. Like he's been a fastball changeup guy for a while now. Big strikeout rate spike in AAA made him a little bit more interesting this year. They're kind of like cycling through options, and they're certainly have an open spot trying to figure out that 7-8 reliever guy where someone who's coming available, they're pretty open-ended to trying it out, seeing if it works. Like Tyler Davis kind of has picked it up and run with it from getting called up. Like there's probably still another space like Beto has been Beto, certainly serving a purpose in terms of like throwing someone at a bulk situation that you're not necessarily worried about needing to leverage the next day, but that's not a permanent place. And when you see a guy like that, even though he's pretty efficient after he flunked 2 guys to push across runs, and I want to say the Angels broadcast said 3 RBIs via hit by pitch in that game was like the most they had seen in a game since like 1920 or something crazy. So part of history forever, if nothing else. But when you see a guy coming in for like 2 1/3 at the end of a blowout loss, you're kind of like, well, is this wringing out the towel one last time before you cut ties. So that's a potential option. I just think like it's pretty unsettled both back of the 40-man roster and certainly back of the bullpen, where figuring out like why Trevor Richards is striking out 52.6% of hitters in AAA is worth their time to find out. Like it's a little bit of like the Lucas Sims type of role of like, see if there's something reclaimed in this guy who's been an effective reliever in the majors before, but it's been a year or 2 or 3 since it's been a regular thing.
And the Chicago White Sox announced their minor league players of the month for April. If you go to our YouTube channel at youtube.com/SoxMachine, we posted a short of one of the questions that James asked Caleb Bonemer, who was the White Sox hitter of the month. Hagen Smith was the White Sox minor league pitcher of the month, about the difference for Bonemer from this year to last year, especially when it comes to home run power. And definitely check out that video short again on youtube.com/SoxMachine. When James asked that question, Bonemer had 11 home runs in the season. He hit only 12 last year. And then later that night against New York Yankees ace Gerrit Cole, who's rehabbing and looking to join the Yankees starting rotation pretty soon, Bonemer hit a big home run off Gerrit Cole and also picked up a couple more hits off Gerrit Cole. And Cole was just agitated and purposely threw, we'll call it, he purposely threw at Caleb Bonemer and hit him with the pitch, which I think is pretty soft, but I guess that's just Gerrit Cole's mentality right now as he gets trying to get ready for the season. But at the same time, for Caleb Bonemer, I know it's a little bit painful, but man, you're 20 years old. You're hitting bombs off a former Cy Young Award winner, and they're getting pissed at you, so they're throwing at you. That should be a prideful moment for Caleb Bonemer. But with 12 home runs in high A, James, and the way that Bonemer has been hitting, does it make sense for the White Sox to continue having Bonemer play in Winston-Salem?
I mean, he put the home run on his Instagram, so I don't think his spirits are too cowed by the hit by pitch. I could see it both ways. You could say that there's obviously still stuff to work on in high A because he's chasing at breaking balls more than he admits that he wants to, and he's striking out at a 30% clip. And those are things that need to get better going forward, especially if he's going to be like this middle of the order bat that he looks more and more like he can be. And that Dash team is pretty good. They got a lot of hitters there. They've previously been wanting their young players to be part of playoff runs, and that's the affiliate that kind of has a chance to qualify for the playoffs in the first half of the season. So it seems like a pretty good dynamic there with Anthony DePino, Kyle Lodis, Kobe Shelton. That group is really working together a lot and hitting very well. So maybe you want to keep them that for another month or so, or say point to the breaking balls and say if you want to get promoted, you have to get better at this. Caleb Bonemer seems like a pretty self-scrutinizing dude from every time I've talked to him. You'd think he'd respond to that. Another point could be hey, if even it's on subconscious level, how much better is he going to get at laying off breaking balls if he's slugging 720 at this level? Home runs are pretty up in that league. Offense is pretty crazy. Does he need to get bumped up to AA where it's at least a little bit harder to hit the ball out of the park there, where maybe chasing at the rate he is or whiffing at the rate he is not going to be he's going to experience real failure from it because he's not going to just hit every fastball he encounters to the parking lot the way he is in Winston-Salem right now. So I think there are different schools of thought on it. I think you can probably give it a couple of weeks to see how he responds and if he really drills down on trying to work on the chase of the breaking balls. But if he's hitting 3 homers a week, maybe it's a little hard, and maybe he's going to stick with what's working pretty far because even with his current state of approach, he's clearly getting enough hittable fastballs to help his team. I don't know if even if it's if he knows long term, hey, I need to get better at this. If the game isn't calling that from you on a night-to-night basis, it's the same reason why guys make real adjustments still in the majors, is that they just haven't dealt with that at the same level in the minors. So I think you can make arguments both ways. I think it's still going to probably result in him being Birmingham probably before the true All-Star break.
Sure.
But maybe that could stretch till June if you think he's really going to make real gains, or you see him really trying to cut down the chase, and you want to say hey, there specific goals you need to fulfill to earn this promotion, and see how he responds to it.
For you and Jim, you listed Caleb Bonemer heading into the season as the White Sox #1 prospect.
Yeah, we're really smart. Don't look at any more on my list, but that one, that's the only one that matters.
How is Christian Opper doing?
Good spirits. Very confident,
Good.
I think. I don't know. I hope he's great. He's a nice guy, but obviously not working great mound results right now.
But with Bonemer, this is a very exciting development. Did you, based on what you saw and who you talked to as far as within the White Sox, like Paul Giannis or even Ryan Fuller, when they were talking about top White Sox hitting prospects with Bonemer, what they saw at the end of last year suggests to foresee what we are seeing right now, where before he even gets called up to Birmingham, there's a chance that Bonemer has already 20 home runs in high
A. Credit to Paul Giannis. He's been like super like high on Bonemer back from like when he was like the only source I had on Bonemer was Giannis, because he was playing Bridge League and no one was watching those games, and he was touting like how good he was, and I was like, I got to take your word for it. He was like saying like Bonemer's like a really good athlete. And I was like, that's not supposed to be the big positive of his profile, but we'll see. So here we are. I would say probably like in analyzing him as a prospect, he's kind of a beefy dude already. Last year, he wasn't necessarily someone you thought like, it wasn't a traditional, like it wasn't Colson Montgomery in an A-ball sort of situation where you see this long, lanky guy and you're like, wow, there's so much projection here. He's going to grow into so much power. You thought like Bonemer's already got good, like he's already got like 50, like at least average, probably 55 grade raw power. You could see him getting 60 just because he's so young. He's going to get a little bit stronger to the point where spring, and you're talking like Fuller and Giannis again. They're like, man, he got way bigger. He's added a lot of size. He looks really strong. And you're wondering like, all right, how much scale are you factoring into that? I don't even know what the answer to that question is right now, because he's like hitting tons of home runs, but I don't necessarily have like the exit velo sitting right in front of me, like how much it's leaped up and how much of it is it just more consistent contact quality versus like truly hitting the ball like tons harder. But Bonemer mentioned he had his own bat speed training that he was doing, with because he's with the Bledsoe agency along with Montgomery before he even got into the White Sox bat speed training program, and says he's swinging faster than he was that last year. So that's part of it as well. I guess I wouldn't have said like, oh, he's going to hit for a ton more power, or he's going to have this huge leap in power, because he's just not like this huge like projection guy. It's not like George Wolkow where it's like this enormously tall guy, so many long levers, and once he starts tapping into it, he's just going to start. It's going to be such easy pop. Bonemer was more this guy who you were confident in because he was good at everything. He didn't chase. He made good amounts of contact, and he had good to above average power. You're just like, there's no loose leg on the stool that's going to fall out and shake everything out. Only for him now to have the season where it's unfathomable levels of power production, but the contact is now a little bit worrisome and the chase is a little bit worrisome. So yeah, we were really high on him because he seemed like a really good hitter and it was only going to go up from there. It hasn't maybe necessarily taken the exact shape that I would have told you it was going to take, or even what I've sold you of why I was confident. It was more like, I don't see a way that he's going to let me down, as opposed to like, here's exactly the way I might let you down, but I'm going to hit so many homers that it doesn't matter. That wasn't necessarily the answer I was expecting.
Boy, if he continues this type of hitting in the second half, where he's showing some success with the Birmingham Barons, the hype machine for Caleb Bonemer is going to be right there with Brady Montgomery, where I'm telling you, James, if Montgomery has a real hot start in AAA in like 2 weeks and just looks like even AAA pitching can't slow him down, so many White Sox fans are going to be clamoring for Brady Montgomery to be called up before June 1st with the White Sox outfield situation that it's currently at. But this is exciting. This is a very exciting player development for the White Sox.
I wouldn't think anyone would take 2 weeks of play and then make these sweeping conclusions about where someone stands as a player. I don't think that's going to happen. You should calm down. You're too worked up.
But this is a very exciting development for the Chicago White Sox with how well Caleb Bonemer has been hitting. But those are your minor league players of the month. In the month of April, Caleb Bonemer and Hagen Smith. And now we review this upcoming home series for the White Sox. Like I mentioned, this is a very weird 2026 season, where to say in the middle of May, the White Sox are having their longest homestand. But that is the case. This is the start of 9 straight home games for the Chicago White Sox, and it starts with the Seattle Mariners, who are so close in making the World Series last year. But they're kind of stumbling out of the gate. They're 18-20. Well, that's good enough for second place in the American League West. They won their last game. They're 5-5 in their last 10. On the road this year, they are 6-9. A bit of the reason why they're sputtering is that Cal Raleigh, he's got 7 home runs in the year, but his OPS is 616. Julio Rodriguez has got 5 homers, but his OPS is only 734. Notorious White Sox killer Josh Naylor has 4 homers this year, but his OPS is 641. So Seattle offensively is not clicking on all cylinders, but their pitching, again, has been very good, and it starts on Friday night. Your probable pitchers for this series at 6:40 p.m. Central Time, it's Emerson, Hancock for Seattle. Again, Sean Burke, who's been very strong for the White Sox, especially in his last 3 starts. Saturday night at 6:10 p.m. Central Time, Luis Castillo has been really struggling for the Seattle Mariners this season. Anthony Kay will get the ball, and we'll see on how he reacts from his follow-up start against the San Diego Padres, where he was solid, not great, but better than he had been. And then on Sunday, Mother's Day, first pitch at 1:10 p.m. Central Time, it's Logan Gilbert against Davis Martin. And Friday night's always kind of fun if you're at home, because you have the Red Zone type of channel for MLB Network where they touch on every single game. So if you have MLB Network, you'll be able to watch their Red Zone type of show. It's very entertaining. It's a great way to check in on everyone. And I feel like on a national level, this is a sneaky good game Friday night for those that haven't been really following the White Sox, but now they're somewhat interested, or they're curious, James, to what this White Sox team is about. Because I think this could be a great pitching matchup between Emerson, Hancock, and Sean Burke. It'd be tough for Sean Burke, but I think we could see a pretty low-scoring game on Friday night. What do you make of this pitching matchup between Hancock and Burke?
It's interesting, because Burke has been succeeding, not with the bat missing that maybe defined him as a prospect, or even when he was exciting at the end of 2024. And Seattle has this lineup that we are expecting to be better, but was obviously off to a slow start, but is a bit more. Their weakness is swing and miss. They have the lowest zone contact in the league right now. They're chasing a little bit too much. They do work their walks a bit more. So him and Burke and Davis Martin have been a little similar in terms of not necessarily big strikeouts, but they're getting ahead of people. They're getting quick contact. And I don't know if I've described this Mariners lineup that necessarily plays in their hands with being aggressive and putting the ball in play a ton. So is that going to cause some regression in the sense that you need to get this team to chase a bit more than these guys have been relying on? Or are we just going to see them post big strikeout nights because this team is just more swing and miss than what they've been dealing with and facing? And they're going to be able to show more wrinkles. Sean Burke has been very much, the way he talks is very Davis Martin coded. It's a lot I need to show 3 different fastballs. I need to work in my cutter more. I need to not just be forcing curveballs over and over again. So it's a bit of a test. Do we see this version of Sean Burke that can go out and strike out 10 guys that he's shown in the past? Do we see the best version of his slider and curveball, and he really gets guys chasing spin? Or do we see hey, if you don't have your best fastball at the start of the game and you're kind of working up your velocity, is it someone a lineup that hurts him a bit more, attacking the fat part of the plate the way he was at last home start, where he's just breezing through innings because it's the wind's blowing in, I'm throwing strikes, and that's how he got to the game. That doesn't necessarily seem like a style that succeeds against Seattle, but it also doesn't seem like the normal Sean Burke start. So which side kind of evolves, I guess, is the question.
No, that's good stuff. And again, we'll be recapping these games. James will be there with our camera, so we'll have more videos for you guys as far as pregame and postgame. press conferences and interviews. You could all check that out on our YouTube channel at youtube.com/Sox Machine. For all the moms that are listening to this, I hope you all have a wonderful Mother's Day on Sunday. But that will do it for this episode of the Sox Machine podcast. We will have a bonus episode for you before the end of this weekend. Dan Zaborski, one of our best friends of the show from FanGraphs.com, will be joining me, giving us a quick Zips update for the rest of the 2026 season after the first quarter of how the Chicago White Sox have been playing this season. And speaking of the first quarter, after Sunday's game, we will be at the first quarter mark for the 2026 season. So we'll be giving out our first quarter grades in Monday's episode. So you could already give us a heads up on how you would grade the Chicago White Sox after the first quarter of the season. But right now, they're in pretty good shape, 17-20, tough series against Seattle. Let's see if they can get another home series win against a tough team. But that'll do it for this episode of the Sox Machine podcast. Thank you so much for listening. If you just discovered the Sox Machine podcast, you can subscribe to the show wherever you listen to podcasts, such as Spotify and Apple Music. I already promoted our YouTube channel, but if you do enjoy our videos or you watch them, or you do want to watch them, please subscribe to our YouTube channel at youtube.com/Sox Machine. We're almost at 2,300 subscribers. So that's a milestone for us. So again, if you haven't subscribed, please do so. Follow us on social media. We're on all the platforms at Sox Machine. You can follow James at JR Hagen. You can follow me at SoxMachine_Josh. If you enjoy our work, you want full access to all of our coverage of the Chicago White Sox, Major League Baseball, and the upcoming MLB Draft. Sign up to become a Sox Machine subscriber at SoxMachine.com/products. Monthly plans start at $5. We also have additional tiers of support, including our Veterans Committee, in which our VC members can have direct access to James and Jim through our group text, so you can pester James with questions to players that you may want him to ask or try to get more info on, and he sometimes delivers on that. So again, if you're interested, go to SoxMachine.com/products and sign up today. The Sox Machine podcast is a production of SoxMachine.com. You're on for all things Chicago White Sox baseball and part of the Blue Wire Podcast Network. Alongside James Hagen, I'm Josh Nelson. Thanks for listening and watching.